Yeah. He's coming over any minute. Yeah, I haven't seen him for a while. I can't wait to see him though. I bet he's grown leaps and bounds. And oh man, although I did hear from his mom, he's a little into these violent video. What? I think he's here at the door. Let me get it. Joshy!
Uncle G!
How you doing, buddy? Good to see
oh my,
you.
wow.
Man,
cool, man.
you're the tallest 8-year-old I've ever seen. Holy
Thanks,
cow,
Uncle G.
you're really
How
growing.
are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad we could spend the day together today.
I know. I'm excited.
What do you want to do? Stuff?
I don't know.
Well, I was thinking, okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we can, over here, bud. I was thinking we could maybe hang out here for a little bit, maybe go to the park later. Happy Meal, maybe, if you, ooh, all right. Well, okay, here's what I'm thinking first. I hear you're really creative, and check this out. Have a seat. Okay, I heard you're really creative, and you like to play with stuff.
Legos!
Ooh,
Yes!
Check them out. All right.
Awesome.
So I was thinking, right? So I'm thinking that we have all these things that we could do, like, first I was thinking maybe we could build like a clinic where people could come. Whoa! Easy. No, I'm trying to build a clinic where people could come and get health care and stuff, and they could like vaccines maybe.
It's boring.
Well,
No,
it'd be fun because
this is cool.
people
This is
really
cool.
need that kind of stuff, Joshy. Joshy, easy. I'm right here. Joshy, you're making me use the hospital as a shield. All right. No, okay. So maybe not a hospital. Maybe there's some, check these out. There's some like little plants and things in here that I know. We could make a totally environmentally friendly park using only native species. Zero maintenance, so that we don't have to crank up the lawnmower or anything. We could do Joshy. I'm trying to do this here.
Bombs away!
No, what, Joshy? It's a park, and
Isn't my plane awesome?
it's something.
It's my bomber.
Can I take a look at it? Wow. So this can drop all kinds of bombs.
What is this?
It's the plan for the hospital and the park.
No, it's not.
What? Joshy, what are you doing? Joshy, get out of there! Whoa, way easy! No, what? Joshy! You gotta get him. Get it. I'm dying here. Get him out of here. Get him. Come now. I don't care. Hey, I hit my foot. Not a minute too soon. Thank you. Bye, Joshy. Was it too much for y'all? Yeah. A little intense. Whew. Well, we know that this world is filled with things that, like we heard about in the prayer time, that are really no laughing matter. Things that are serious that we can't even imagine what it would be like to live through. At the same time, though, how can we be people of peace who take things seriously but who don't take ourselves too seriously? In a world where kids and adults, for that matter, are taught a narrative of violence, are taught that in the movie theaters, when you go to the movies and the resolution comes at the end, how does it always come? What happens to the bad guy? 9 times out of 10, he gets his, right? And he's dead. So, how do we, as people of peace, tell a different story? How do we create a different narrative as peacemakers in this world? Well, here's an idea. How about if we go about it with a little bit of joy and enthusiasm? How about if we try to craft a narrative that is as full of alluring stories, creativity, excitement, commitment, dedication, and even joy, something war could never have? How about if we did that? As most of you know, my family and I lived in Brazil for a couple of years, and when we were living in Brazil, we had the privilege of learning some Portuguese, and so we don't get to use it that much, Karen and I. Most of the time when we use it, we're trying to speak in code so that the kids won't understand what we're saying, actually. But even that has limited effectiveness these days, because anytime we slide in the word sorvete, what does that mean? Ellen? Ice cream. So we can no longer say, how about, que você acha sobre alguma sorvete hoje à noite? We can't say that, because even if the rest is just blah, 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 sorvete, the kids are keyed in, right? One of the great things about learning a foreign language is, though, that you learn these phrases and you learn these terms that don't quite translate. They're words that don't have the same equivalency in English as they, in this case, as they do into Portuguese. I've taught some of those to you through the years, e daí being a really big one, and so. But today I want to teach you one that I heard a lot in Brazil. Anytime I was talking to a kid, the word is chato. And it even sounds like kind of an ugly word. It is kind of an ugly word. It means, it's like boring, but it's like boring times 10, all right? So it's like flat, boring, annoying, has no inspiration. And so oftentimes when I would talk to a kid, I'd say, how was your day at school? And the kid would say, oh, chato. Well, what about your teacher? I'm sure you've got some good teachers. Some teach, oh, pastor chato. Well, what about church when you go to church? Oh, pastor, I don't want to answer that, is what they would tell me because I was doing church work. So I said, all right, fair enough. That word is chato. So how do we as peacemakers create a narrative that is not chato? Because so often, because these are such serious things, we get wrapped up in the seriousness of it, and we forget that there's some joy that can be shared. How do we create that narrative so that we can teach and so that we can learn with a smile on our face? It's a question. Well, believe it or not, Jesus actually did this quite a bit. Here's one story. This is from Mark. They came to the other side of the lake, to the country of the Gerasenes, and when he, Jesus, had stepped out of the boat, immediately a man out of the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. He lived among the tombs, and no one could restrain him anymore, even with a chain, for he had often been restrained with shackles and chains. But the chains he wrenched apart, and the shackles he broke into pieces. And no one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always howling and bruising himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and bowed down before him, and he shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he had said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." He begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now there on the hillside, a great herd of swine was feeding, and the unclean spirits begged him, "Send us into the swine, let us enter them." So he gave them permission. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned in the lake. So what does any of that have to do with this peacemaking that I'm talking about? Let alone teaching peacemaking? Well, think about this. It's no coincidence that the demon that possesses this man in the scripture is named Legion. And Legion is the same name for a Roman army fighting unit. Now remember, the Romans are occupying Jesus and Jesus' people, making life very, very difficult. It was the same kind of legion that would have later executed Jesus. And so, is it any coincidence that when Jesus casts out this legion into a herd of swine, that they consequently run off the cliff into this lake and they drown? Now, maybe so far it doesn't sound like a great premise for the next Netflix great original, but it would elicit a gratified chuckle, a smirk, from those people who were living under that heavy fist of Roman occupation. And here's the icing on the cake for those Jews who were listening. Remember, how did they view pigs? They saw swine as unclean animals. Remember? They're on the do not eat list. Next, they probably knew that those swine, because the Jews didn't eat them, those pigs were probably food for who? The Romans. And third, the gospel story wants us to know that Roman soldiers are what? Like pigs. Okay, so 3 nonviolent jabs to the military powers that be. Jesus calling the Roman soldiers pigs. He's linking them to the demonic. He's even knocking out their food supply while he's at it. Now, for Jesus and the gospel writers, clever wordplay and storytelling, along with nonviolent action, that was all just part of the playbook. It spread messages of peace and hope and faith while capturing the listener's attention, hopefully, and doing it in such a way that the authorities, check this out, this is the brilliance, the authorities would risk looking foolish if they took action against Jesus. Can you imagine the Roman soldier who then hauled Jesus before his commander or before a judge somewhere and squealed? He called us pigs. Probably wouldn't have gone very far. I doubt they would have done that. Or even accusing Jesus of casting these demons into these pigs and sending them into the river, because that would have just given Jesus more authority. They would have been recognizing his power, right? And like the most savvy politico, Jesus could spread his message pretty boldly, very prophetically, with low risk of arrest, at least at this point. He could deflate those who were puffed up by power, knowing that if they tried to wield their power against him, they would only look more ridiculous, more insecure, and more power-hungry than ever before. This is not Shato. Now I Shato now. So I wonder, can the same tactics be used today? Can peacemaking still confront malevolent forces in ways that are as exciting and clever as ever? Hang on. I shared a story 4 or 5 years ago similar to this, but this one is even better. Because what could be more serious than a neo-Nazi rally? After President Barack Obama was reelected in 2012, a group of white supremacists held an anti-immigration rally in Charlotte, North Carolina. "We stand in defense of white people everywhere," one of them said, according to the WCNC newscast. The group said white Christians are the only ones qualified to hold public office. But then the clowns were sent in, quite literally. Despite the tension, NBC Charlotte reporter Diana Rugg said protesters were determined to make that rally a laughing matter. The straight-up message from us to the white supremacist is, "You look silly," said Lacey Williams of the Latin American Coalition. And the clown counter-protesters went on to meet racist messages with ridicule. Outnumbering the white nationalists 5-1, they answered chants of white power with what? Their own chants of white flour. There's the Pillsbury Doughboy. Then, as you can imagine, the chants of white power probably got even more and more angry and intense. And again, they volleyed back with Dwight Power. Reference to African-American basketball player Dwight Howard. "We are here to say that we're dressed like clowns, and you're the ones who look funny," one protester remarked. I don't know about you, but I've been to a lot of protests, and this looks like the most fun protest that anybody has ever done. Again, chato? No. Now, if you think that this kind of peacemaking is just for a bunch of amateurs, take a look at these two. Two of the most influential peacemakers the world has ever seen, certainly in modern history. The Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, both winners of the Nobel Peace Prize, both great spiritual masters in their own right, moral leaders of our time. And they are also known for being among the most infectiously happy and joyful people on the planet. Just look at them. What do we see here? They know all the troubles, tribulations, and hardships of the world. They've been on the other end. And yet there is joy. In fact, they've written a book on it. It's due to be out soon. In the book, they share their own stories and teachings about joy. The most recent findings on the studies of happiness, deep happiness, and the daily practices that anchor their own emotional and spiritual lives. Now in their 80s, both the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu have been tested time and again by great personal and national adversity, and yet they continue forward in joy. They're on a mission to spread the good news that to have joy yourself, you have to spread it to others. Again, the opposite of chato. Now, the rest of the story in Mark is that the swineherds, they run back to town. Remember, they were kind of out on the outskirts. They run back to town. They tell everybody what has happened. And so the people from town naturally run back. They want to see with their own eyes what has happened. And when they get back, what do they find? They find the man who was possessed, who had previously been possessed. And the scripture says, sitting there clothed and of right mind. And so I wonder, for a world that seems to be in the grips of legions, not only military power, but also those that occupy our mind, that set the narrative for us, can we call the world back to being of our right mind? Can we be peacemakers who show that there is a way that is different than the myth of redemptive violence? Can we be peacemakers who show that there is a place for civility in public discourse? Can we be peacemakers who reach out and say that we're more alike than we are different, that differences matter, but we're going to overcome them? Do we have the wherewithal, the strength, the humor, the compassion, and the joy to spread a message of peace that is not chato, but that is full of God? May it be so. It looks like the sun is beginning to shine. After this hymn, we're going to sing this closing song. For anybody who wants to go out, I would encourage you, we're going to go gather around the peace pole and have a short ceremony of peace out there. Hope everyone will come out.